Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim A. Khan. He joins us from The Hague. Thank you very much for being on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Khan, you're just back from Conakry, the capital of Guinea, where you attended this Wednesday, the first day of a very symbolic trial. It's the trial of a massacre that took place exactly 13 years ago in a stadium in Conakry, in which over 150 people were killed, thousands were injured, over 100 women were raped, and in the dock there were 11 suspects, including the military ruler at the time, Moussa Dadis Camara. How important was it for you to be there?
I think critically important. It's an important moment. Victims have waited 13 years. They've waited far too long for justice. My office opened a preliminary examination in 2009, but the fact that under Guinean law, a former president, you mentioned Denis Camara, and 10 others, 11 people came from custody, answered the recall of the judges, answered before the judges, is immensely important. And the victims deserve these allegations not only to be properly investigated, they have been investigated under the Guinean process, but independent judges must now determine if there's criminal responsibility. So it's really important to be there and to support that process that the ICC has been looking at now for 13 years as well.
Right. Why is the ICC there? Because as you mentioned, those are Guinean proceedings. So people wonder, well, the ICC, it's about its own trials and The Hague and so on. What were you doing there?
The ICC had jurisdiction because Guinea is a state party, and every state has a responsibility to investigate and prosecute international crimes. So the office opened an investigation because we didn't see really action that was taking place sufficiently. We were looking into the matter regarding jurisdiction, and in 2011 the office made a determination that it had jurisdiction, and it appeared that crimes within its jurisdiction may have been committed. So this is the principle of complementarity, and what we did after the opening of the trial was to sign a memorandum of understanding with the interim president of the transitional authority, in which Guinea made further gave further undertakings to support the process, not to interfere with the processes of the judiciary in Guinea, to share information with my office so that we can make sure that there's a proper process that's not a sham, that does not shield the accused, but under Guinean law. And that's the best option. Always trials are better at home. It is the native jurisdiction of Guinea that has to be working to protect people, not only in relation to the allegations of the 28th of September 2009, but in many other matters. And so if the ICC, if my office can support that, we will. But we're also watching very closely. And as I said very clearly in front of the president, after we signed the memorandum of understanding, because of the commencement of the trial, I've closed the preliminary examination. But if the process doesn't continue and does not have the elements of integrity and independence that are expected and required, I can also reopen the examination and open an investigation. So it's this collaborative process that actually is I think the essential underpinning of the rules-based system. And when states step up, I will be the first to applaud them. And I applaud the courageous step of the interim president of Guinea for making sure there is space for the rule of law.
Right. Obviously, you mentioned this memorandum of agreement. You see that it gives some guarantees for the proceedings to be fair and transparent. Nevertheless, there is this image of you side by side with a man in military fatigues who took power in a coup, whose country is under international sanctions, where public protests are banned, opposition is jailed or exiled. I mean, obviously, there is a risk of maybe being used for political purposes.
Yes, conversely, that very risk requires action, because I'm not in the regime change business. I've entered MOUs when I closed the situation in Colombia that had been open for 17 years, when I opened an investigation in Venezuela, with President Maduro at the presidential palace. I also signed an MOU, and I've done the same just a couple of days ago in Guinea. So I've said repeatedly, I'm not in the business. It's not part of my mandate as an officer of the court, as the prosecutor of the ICC, to give any weight to whether one is a capitalist, free market economy or Marxist, whether one is democratically elected or military. The simple issue I'm focusing on is if there is impunity for crimes within the court's jurisdiction. And I think the fact that the interim government now have built the courtroom, have brought the accused from custody, they've presented them before the victims. I met yesterday or the day before on the 28th of September, lawyers for the victims, lawyers for the defense, is a very important moment. And I think what we have to show is that we don't have politics, and I will engage with anybody, any form of government that are serious in tackling their international responsibilities, that there should be no safe haven for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, or the crime of aggression within the jurisdiction of the court.
Let me just clarify. In this memorandum of understanding earlier, you seem to indicate that, yes, there is this trial about the massacre, but it also means that there could be proceedings for other cases, because unfortunately Guinea has seen its fair share of violence and abuse and crimes, correct?
Well, what we see is that the particular issues that we were looking at were the terrible allegations regarding the 28th of September 2009, and then the subsequent allegations of rape and sexual violence, burnings and torture. And the fact that people have been brought to the court is meaningful. But the fact of the matter is that when a homegrown system becomes more mature, it will benefit the whole panoply of guarantees that are there under constitutions and under the rules-based system. So we're looking at it through the prism of the 28th of September. But the fact is, if as I told the president, if the roots of justice can go deeper, if they can be nurtured at home, if we can work as the international community, the EU is in Guinea, many other countries, as well as the ICC, the United Nations are involved. If together we can provide some support, but Guinea has the clear responsibility to step up. I won't feel it. I won't feel any remorse. I'll be delighted to step out from the preliminary examination stage, change my posture of one of partnership and support, at the same time a position of vigilance to make sure that this is not a charade, it's not a cosmetic exercise, it grasps the nettle of truth so that the victims who've suffered so much can have meaningful accountability, and that much they absolutely deserve.
I want to turn quickly to Ukraine. In the northeast of the country, in the town of Izium, a mass grave was seemingly found. You told the United Nations Security Council last week that the team from your office would be returning to look into those allegations. Is it there? Is it getting access? And more broadly, are you seeing now mounting evidence of war crimes committed in Ukraine by Russia or maybe by others?
Well, yes, absolutely. The team is on the ground. The team has had a continuous field presence in Ukraine since May. We've also had vibrant partnerships with forensic experts from my office, but also with other states like Belgium and the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And of course, there are serious allegations that have been made. We are engaging with the Ukrainian authorities. I've also tried to engage with the Russian Federation, and our job now is to get to the bottom of it all. So
Are the Russians responding?
Unfortunately, not this time, but I will keep knocking on their door, because I think it's in everybody's interest. If there's truth out there, the judicial process will find it. And if there's lies out there, it can't be hidden in fair and independent processes. So anybody, any state party, any non-state party for that matter, any individual, any NGO that has information should be confident in sharing it with my office confidentially and securely. We will verify it. We will check it. We will make sure, God willing, that it is authentic and it is reliable. And the reliable evidence we will use to make any findings that we think are necessary. And then we'll submit that to independent judges who will scrutinize it and perform their own functions as well as a quality control safeguard as well. So I think we have to do our job, and it's one of forensic detachment and objectivity.
Right. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told the UN Security Council that the ICC has not reacted to the crimes committed by Ukraine, and therefore Russia has no confidence in it. So this begs the question, well, first of all, you might want to answer this, but also, are you looking into potential crimes also by Ukraine?
Well, it's a matter of public record. I mean, I was in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh on the 24th of February. And on the 25th, I gave my first statement, and I underlined the fact that all parties to the conflict have clear responsibilities. I've stated that numerous times when I've spoken to the Ukrainians, when I've spoken to the international community, and also with the Russian Federation. But the point of the matter is, of course, any party can characterize their confidence or lack of confidence. It's a matter of their judgment. But if they have information, share it with my office. But it really doesn't, it's not optimal to say that we're not investigating, and yet information that a party to a conflict says they have is not being shared with an independent and impartial court that the Security Council has used on at least 2 previous occasions in the past. They've used it in Libya and in Sudan, and I would simply invite any state party or non-state party, including the Russian Federation and Ukraine, to share information with us. And at the moment, we're having good cooperation with Ukraine. I hope the cooperation can start when it comes to the Russian Federation. And I will keep trying to contact them to say, look, we've got no political agenda. We want to get to the truth. And if they have information that they believe to be the truth, I'm sure they will share it. We have not received information at the moment.
Karim Khan, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on the France 24 interview. Thank you very much for watching it, and stay tuned for more news.
On France 24, watch exclusive interviews with the world's most influential personalities.
We need to act together because we're protecting our freedom.
Encounters with key political leaders.
L'inquiétude, elle est extrême.
Leading figures from the worlds of culture, sport and science.
La science, la recherche, la découverte, le progrès, c'est important, c'est pas des mots qui sont vides.
Whatever you think is right, you can do.
Watch The Interview, a meeting of ideas on France 24 and France24.com.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.